Welcome to this video, How to Begin Grief Recovery After the Death of a Spouse. Unlike other videos that provide relevant and important information, this is a practical how-to guide to begin your first steps in grief recovery. Remember, grief is something that you cannot go around, you can't go over it, you can't go under it, you have to go through it. And over the next few minutes, I want to provide practical steps that will help you to begin that process. Remember, each journey of grief is specific to the individual, which means only begin when you're ready. It doesn't matter what somebody else's time frame is or what you've been told is the average amount of time that it takes. This is your journey, and today I want to help you to begin when you're ready. Grief is an inevitable part of the human experience. It accompanies life changes and the loss of a significant loved one. There are many things that can prompt grief in our world, and we need to begin that process of moving forward, or we'll be stuck in our grief. Over the next few minutes, I want to present practical how-to steps that you can begin that process. But before we do, it's very important to understand what grief is and the several ways it can present itself. Grief is a deeply personal and complex journey, and it's important to recognize that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. Now, there are ways that are more healthy and that can help you to move forward in your grief, but each person's journey is valid and important. Over the next few minutes, I want to give you the how-to process, these important steps that will help you to move from where you are to where you need to be. It was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross who introduced the 5 stages of grief. You know them as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. Now, these are all valid emotions, but not every person experiences them, and not always in the order that they are listed. They can come at spontaneous and unusual times, and they may masquerade as another emotion. That's why it's hard to process grief. Often we're not sure what we're feeling. Denial is usually the first feelings that come to mind. It's a stage that we struggle with. It's trying to accept the reality that that person that has always been there is gone. It's a stage of grief that many people can get stuck in. And we want to make sure today that you recognize your grief, that there is not a denial of the loss. It is one of the most difficult things to do, yet it is essential in moving forward. And often, right behind denial is anger. How did this happen? We're angry at the doctors, we're angry at the diagnosis, we're angry at God. It seems impossible that this has happened. And there's even bargaining. Often when the diagnosis comes, that begins to lead to the ultimate loss. We begin to bargain. We bargain with God. We bargain with selves. We begin to question the what-ifs and the if-onlys. What if I had done this? If only I had done that. And we begin to bargain our way to somehow make the reality different. And that's part of the denial. And then it begins to settle in. That depression, that feeling that you just can't shake. A reality begins to settle over you. Many people have a hard time moving out of that depression, but it is natural. There is no way you can be joyful or happy in the midst of loss. It's important to understand your depression and to know when that depression goes beyond what is normal and healthy and what is considered clinical depression, where you may need the assistance of a doctor or a therapist. But finally comes acceptance. This is a moment that, well, it can be life-changing, because that acceptance can either be the beginning of the new reality, or it can be an acceptance of a world that seems so dark and dreary that you don't want to live in it. We want to look at each and every one of these steps and how those emotions affect us so we can begin the process of how to move forward. The first step in how to begin grief recovery after the death of a spouse is to acknowledge and accept your grief. Recovering from the pain and the loss of a spouse is a difficult situation. You have to acknowledge and accept the reality and the magnitude of your loss. It's essential to allow yourself to experience the pain, the sadness, the anger, and all of the other emotions that you may have, to recognize that grief is a natural response and to give yourself permission to grieve. This acknowledgement of your grief, it may come in tears. You can create a safe place if you need to find a quiet and comfortable space where you can reflect, where you can be alone with your thoughts and feelings. This can be a dedicated room. It can be a peaceful time in nature. It can be a moment that you walk by the ocean, where you head to the beach, where maybe you just read a book, or even it's just a quiet spot in your home. All of these actions are helping you to accept that you're going through grief. Allow yourself to feel and acknowledge your emotions. During times of loss, emotions can fluctuate wildly, and they can be so intense. Feelings of anger and guilt and even relief. Yes, relief. Sometimes when you've been the caregiver and the person you're caring for has had a long illness and there's been pain and suffering, their passing not only brings grief, but relief. And you must release yourself from any guilt that you may feel for feeling that sense of peace or relief. Be thankful that they're no longer in pain. Be thankful that they don't have to be taken care of. You have to let go of guilt. It's nothing you can do anything different about. It is the way it is, and accepting the reality and allowing yourself to express all of your emotions in a healthy way. Maybe it's talking to a trusted friend or a family member. Maybe it's writing in a journal or seeking professional help if you need it. Often the pain of losing a spouse is so great that the emotions of the surviving spouse get buried because the person doesn't want to be hurt anymore. It's a way they protect themselves. Allowing yourself to feel and express your emotions is a crucial second step in the process of grief recovery. The very important third step is to seek support from others. Grief can feel so isolating, but you don't have to go through it alone. You can reach out to family, friends, clergy, counselors, therapists. There's 101 folks out there that are ready to serve you, to help you in some way, to provide understanding and empathy and a listening ear. You can lean on those people. There is power in prayer, and God is there listening. He is a listening ear that is always available to you. Sharing your feelings, your memories, and your emotions of the person that you've lost can help you process the grief and find comfort in knowing that others really do care about you. You don't want to walk this journey alone. You can, if you're not careful, find yourself so isolated that you feel like no one can find you. You're lost out there. You may want to be alone, though. You may feel you don't want to be a burden to others, and I understand that. It's easy to feel like, I don't want to be the person causing somebody else a problem. But you're denying others the opportunity to care for you. There are people who've asked you, how can I help? But we don't often share that answer. There may be a person out there ready to listen, a counseling professional, a minister, a trusted friend. They want to help you break that isolation. It's an essential third step. Take care of yourself. This critical fourth step is often dismissed. It's often seen as selfish, and it's not. It is self-care, and there's a big difference. It may seem selfish at first to try to take care of self, but it's not. Grief can take a toll on the body, the mind, and the spirit. It can destroy your emotional well-being, and it becomes important to prioritize self-care during this time of loss and grief. You've got to pay attention to your body and your basic needs, such as getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, and engaging in regular exercise if your health permits. These activities that bring you joy, they need to be restored to your world. Maybe it's an opportunity to start something that you've never started before, a class possibly, or to join a group that maybe you thought, I've always wanted to do it, but there hasn't been time. These moments of self-care, they really do make a difference, and they can help break the isolation. And this can be something as simple as spending time in nature, or practicing meditation or mindfulness, or pursuing one of those desired hobbies. Your spouse, the love of your life, would not want the time that you spend apart to be spent with you in misery. The love of your life would want you to find peace. They would want you to find recovery. They would want you to find happiness again. It is so important to gradually adjust to the new normal. As you continue to heal, recognize that the grieving process, well, it's going to take a while. And it does not mean that you're forgetting the person that you've lost. It means finding a new way to integrate their memories into your life and accepting this new normal. Now, that might mean making adjustments to routines, setting new goals, or finding meaning and purpose in life. Even life without that loved one by your side. You have to give yourself permission to move forward. Even if it means moving forward and that beloved spouse isn't by your side. They will forever be in your memory. They will forever be with you. There's a part of them that will always be in your heart. I've often said there's a hole in the heart that is exactly the shape of the person that we've lost. That's supposed to be there. The only thing worse is if they'd never made that kind of impression, or that you never felt the pain because of loss. I'm thankful that they loved you that much, and you loved them that much. I feel confident they would want you to find your new normal.
The 5 how-to steps. Acknowledge and accept your grief. Allow yourself to feel and express emotions. Seek support from others. Take care of yourself. Adjust to the new normal.
The 5 simple steps that have been listed in this video are just the beginning, and they can help you to take baby steps toward grief recovery from the death of a spouse. Now, that recovery is long and complex, and I know that. It is a journey that should not be walked alone. You don't want to deny those feelings. You don't want to isolate yourself. You don't want to be stuck someplace where the grief becomes complicated and feels unresolvable. Remember, you are not alone. You're cared for and are important, and you are seen. And when you're ready, consider starting the steps, including if it's just step 1, to begin your journey of healing and of peace. May God bless you in this great time of grief and healing. He is always with you, and He understands your loss. May He bless you as you take each and every one of these steps, and as you find healing, and as you find, again, happiness. May God be with you. Thank you for watching How to Begin Grief Recovery After the Death of a Spouse.